Good morning. Hello to everybody who's watching our Facebook Live, whether it's live and you're watching it now, in which case it would be lovely if you comment and say hi from whoever you are, wherever you are, in whichever country. There's Pete and I. Pete's behind the camera. I'm Liz from Pinhole Quilting, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. If you're watching it on catch-up on either our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe so that the next time I upload, you get an instant notification of the fact that there's a new video. Or you might watch it on Facebook. I know that not everybody loves Facebook, so you've got the option of YouTube as well. And I'll try and do that straight afterwards. It doesn't always work for various technical reasons. But anyway, what a lovely week we have in store. By the look of it, the weather is finally turning. And for those of you who aren't in Spain or Esperance or in the Adirondacks, you won't know, but we've had terrible, terrible weather throughout May. Exacerbated for us by the fact that Pete and I, last night, we got back from our 10-day trip where we went up the west coast even, northwest of England to Scotland, spent several days up in Scotland and then came back via the northeast, seeing lots of customers along the way. And I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do as a company, because Pete and I have, we've been interested in this area for quite a while, is really to see what we can do in terms of either recycling packaging or being a bit more environmentally friendly in what we do. We have a very short commute. It's a 3-minute drive from our house, so we don't have a lot of commute time. But one of the things that we did this year was invest in an electric car. So what we did on this trip was do it all electric, 100%. And it was also a bit of a test for us too, because we went into some fairly remote parts. And I know that a lot of people have sort of heard different things about electric cars. And one of our customers that we installed at recently has the same model. And she absolutely loves hers. And she'd got hers, we were chatting, and she said, "You will love driving it." And that's something that I never expected. So if anybody's interested in electric vehicles, I definitely could recommend it, but do your research is all I'll say. Pete did all ours, and we absolutely love it. And what was brilliant was, even though we went to fairly remote places, we were able to charge up en route. We didn't have to plug in while we were overnight at a hotel or anything else like that. We could actually just do it en route as part of our trip. So you have to think about it differently, but that's all part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to be a little bit more green about how we travel and what we do, and that includes things like the packaging that we purchase. We try wherever possible to get recyclable packaging or recycled packaging that is used in the components. So that's something that we're trying to do. And if anybody's got any comments on that, then great. Or if you've got electric yourself, we'd be interested to know. I mean, one of the things that we found when we were up in Scotland, as you who are regular watchers to our Facebook Live will know, we did an actual broadcast from our customer's house in near Loch Lomond. And Anne was very, very, very kindly agreed, without too much interesting. I mean, I think anybody who's never done this before, it would be natural to be nervous because you don't know what the other person's going to say. At least I have relatively good control over what happens here, but for Anne, she didn't. But after a while, I think it just becomes like a conversation. You forget there's actually anybody the other side who might be watching it in their front room or whatever, or by their long arm. And that was lovely. So thank you very much to Anne and also to Tony for providing some entertainment for Pete while Anne and I were doing the loading of the quilt. And I think we got an insight into other toys that can be purchased by other halves, a whole other area of having fun. And we had a lovely lunch, so thank you very much for that. So Anne's quilts we had some lovely comments about Anne's quilts last weekend. And I think it's something that we love sharing what our customers do. So some of the blog posts that I'll be doing in the next week or so, time dependent, will be the photographs that we took while we were on our trip. And now we won't mention everybody that we saw on our trip, but we did about 1,200 miles electric, and we saw 12 customers. We did 3 installations, and the rest was servicing. So it worked out really, really well. And thank you to everybody who managed to sort of fit into where we needed to see people. I think it was made a little bit easier by the fact that people weren't actually away on holiday like they would be normally. Some of our customers would be away. But it was really lovely, because one of the things that we do miss is either having customers here at our showroom, and we've only been able to do that for a limited amount of time, but also going out and doing installations where we might spend a bit of time. We've been doing a lot more where we've been going to customers, just doing the basic installation, coming back, and then everything else was by Zoom. So this is kind of like almost back to normal for us, really, aside from shows, of course. And I've seen a few things this week about shows being on different dates and things like that. But let's hope that, fingers crossed, everything opens up as we expect it to, and we will look forward to seeing you at a show or at one of the events that we will have planned for the latter half of this year. Because that's one of the things that we want to do. We want to make a little bit more use of this space, particularly if you're interested in long arm quilting and you haven't got one yet. There'll be try before you buy sessions and open days where you'll be able to book a session for maybe a few hours or something like that. And we'll have some interesting people here that you can talk to, not just me and Pete, with no pressure to buy, just to kind of get a bit more information about what long arming is and what it means. And that can be really helpful for you when you're making a decision, because it's a big decision. And you don't want to sort of feel like you haven't had the opportunity to try out different techniques before committing. So and we've got our coffee machine back in working order just in time for the classes, so we're really happy about that. So we'll be able to welcome everybody here to the showroom, and it's a lovely setup here if you've not been, and it's in a beautiful part of the world. So we've got around us, we've got the lovely Pershore Market Town, we've got Croom, which is a fabulous National Trust property, and you've got gorgeous gardens, and the house when it's open is lovely as well. So we've also got Worcester, not very far. And the Malverns, for those who like to do a little bit of walking. And Breeden Hill, we love Breeden Hill. We go up there as much as we can. And it's a really beautiful view of the Malverns when you're at the top of Breeden Hill. So let me just have a little slurp on my coffee. Pete, if you want to add anything about any comments that have been coming in while I do that.
Well, I'm pleased to see that, a few people have electric cars or even electric bikes. I've seen some.
Oh, yeah. We did think about bikes, but yeah. Okay.
A few of the customers we've seen this week are on board this morning.
Oh, good. Who have we got?
Anne. We've got Anne from Loch Lomond, who we were at last Saturday.
Fantastic. Hi, Anne.
And Annette, I've seen.
Oh, good. Annette. Yeah, we had a lovely time with Annette.
I think Brian and Liz are with us as well.
Lovely.
We did a flying visit to see Brian and Liz whilst we were up in there.
Yes, we were just down the road from Brian and Liz, and Liz and Brian, they've got a Namara on a studio frame, a beautiful setup, and probably one of the biggest sewing rooms, because the double garage has been converted. Just one of Liz's sewing rooms, and it was lovely, really lovely to see you guys. So, and thank you for the scones. You tempted me out of my, I fell off the wagon at Liz and Brian's. Now, the other thing was, Annette, who lives on Brown Cow Road. What a great road name that is. And I've got some lovely photographs of Annette's setup, where she has a little bit of teaching and some fabric sales. And that's in one she shed. And then the other she shed has got the Avanti long arm with a Pro Stitcher, just in front of the man cave. And the man cave has got in it memorabilia, I think it was, wasn't it? That was quite funny. When we wear masks and stuff, and when I met Annette's husband, I said, you'll probably never recognise me again because, I'm wearing a mask. And he said, no, I recognise you. I know who you are. I see you every Saturday. And that's watching you on your Facebook. So thank you very much for that. That made me laugh. So we had a great time up in Scotland. And I won't mention, as I say, absolutely everybody at this point. But one of the things that we did, even despite the rather typical, unfortunately, rain that we've been having throughout May, was that we did get a little bit of time on the Sunday to go and visit a few things, which was lovely. So we went to, on my bucket list, for about, I'm going to say 25 years, quite a long time, bucket list. Didn't call them bucket lists then. and it was Hill House at Helensburgh. We were staying not very far from there. So we saw the sign on the way in. I knew that was a name, Helensburgh, that had sort of struck a chord in my memory. And of course, it's Hill House, Charles Rennie Mackintosh's Hill House, that he was the architect for and worked for Mr. Blackie. And it was really fantastic to see it. And interestingly, talking to the lady who was there that knew all about Hill House, it's now shrouded. The whole thing is covered in chainmail. The whole house literally has got this, it's in a box of this metal. And the reason being, and it's got all stairs and stuff, so you can actually see the roof and you can see the first floor and all that kind of thing. You can walk right around the outside of it at different levels. Very cool. And it's well worth a visit because it was at a time when Mackintosh, along with many other people around the UK, had suddenly discovered Portland cement. And instead of using lime render, or harling, as it's called in Scotland, they used a render that included cement rather than lime, which is breathable. So, traditional lime mortar that you get on old timber-framed houses is designed to be a breathable membrane that, you get water trapped in the house and it can come out again, but not if you've got cement. So the net result of that, they reckon it was within a year of just collapsing and not being saved. So they funded with National Trust in Scotland to put this shroud around it. I'm saying shroud, I don't know what you call it, but like a box. And it's worked. So 2 years it's been like that. But the Hill House itself, oh my goodness, I'm a massive, I'm Peterson, but I am a massive Mackintosh fan. And I've absolutely loved his work, both the watercolours and all the other things that he designed as an architect. When I was visiting my brother up in Edinburgh, I spent a day going to the Glasgow School of Art before it sadly burnt down twice, and also seeing the tea rooms on Sochihall Street, I don't know how you say that, but also there's an exhibition at the museum.
Sochihall, isn't it?
Sochihall, is it? Sochi means willow. That's why it's the willow tea rooms. And a little bit of trivia there. And it was just the most amazing day, but I didn't have time to go and see Hill House, so that's why I went this time. So it's fantastic, and I would highly recommend anybody to go. I know a number of customers already have. So let's just get on with a bit of long arm quilting. We will be adding some new products to, I'll just show you those in a little bit. Actually, I can grab those now. I'm going to grab those now. I'll do this first, and then we'll talk about the square foot, yeah?
Okay.
So I'll do these over here because actually it's easier. We've been doing the full line stencils. Well, every time we order from Full Line, I can't help but order a few more. And I don't have Talen Jaffrey's new stencils in, but I did order some others anyway. I thought these were really cute because these will be really good, particularly for some of the customers who might have sit-downs, because you can do smaller areas more easily on a sit-down. And I thought these were really, really sweet.
Yeah, so just to get a sense of scale, so that's called mini feathers, and they're 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches. For a 4-inch block.
That's right. So you can transfer these to your quilt top. Obviously, it depends on the colour of it, but this is really good with the white chalk. And this is another really nice sort of smaller one as well. And you might have to sort of flip the stencil, but you can do them from either side to get it to line up.
So that's called Sweetheart Background.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives you some ideas on the back of how to use the stencil, either as an overall edge-to-edge design, or you could put it in a wide border. And then there's this one, overall meandering. We can just do a little bit to fit in a border if you wish, just a sort of overall design, but actually it's more edge-to-edge. So anybody who's doing edge-to-edge quilting and maybe doesn't have quilting from the back or has perhaps a little foot frame, these are really good for that because you can just mark up a section at a time. Use a reference line, perhaps put that reference line on before you put your quilt on the frame, and then you can use it for alignment.
So that last one was called Fireflower.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the bigger stencils.
That's a bigger one.
And this is another of the large stencils.
This is a design that lots of people will know, of course, and it's Baptist fan. Now you could mark this on your quilt, but then maybe use circle or part of a circle to create the Baptist. I mean, we've got the, this one fan fills a 4 by 6 inch area. Okay, so that's how big that is. That's quite a nice scale, actually. It's not too big. Then we've got Interlocking El Dorado, 6 3/4 inches wide. So this is a lovely one because, you know, these feathers, some people struggle with the feathers, and we found that this kind of overall design looks fantastic because it really fills the wadding in these curves. Looks great. So that's Interlocking El Dorado. And I know however many days it is till Christmas is like something that some people really don't like us saying, but this is Holly Swirl. So if you have got a Christmas quilt and you want to give it a little Christmas quilt accent with a bit of a quilting design, this is a Holly Swirl and it's lovely. I just thought the scale of this was really good. And you've got registration marks so that you'll get perfect alignment. So those are our new stencils. They will be up after I've done this session with you on Facebook.
So Mary's asked whose stencils these are. So this is a range of stencils called full line stencils that we started getting in about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They are nylon stencils designed for use with the Pounce chalk. So they're really very effective and they've been extremely popular. They're completely reusable, and the chalk goes through.
Let me just do a quick demo then.
The white section that's shown on the stencil. Okay, quick impromptu demo.
Yeah, and look, I've got that squidge. That doesn't matter. The nice thing is it doesn't matter that I've completely not laid my stencil. I could iron that away. I wonder if I have actually got a better one. Let me just go and grab a... Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah. All right, so we use this with a quilt pounce. We fill the reservoir here. Don't be stingy, Veronica. Veronica will be watching on catch up because she's always walking the dogs. Veronica was one of the people we saw up in Scotland. We actually upgraded her frame. And she couldn't get the quilt pounce to work. So I said, right, watch this video. And Hansi have got a video that shows that you need to put sufficient in the reservoir. And she said, oh, I was just being too stingy. So if it's not coming through, do what Veronica did and add a bit more to your reservoir. So you just wipe it over after you've charged it by knocking it down on the surface. And there we go. How fantastic is that? And then you can follow that to your heart's content. And the good thing is it comes away with an iron. In fact, if I just plug that iron in, I've had it on this morning, doing a little bit of ironing, not peach shirts. And you can, this just needs to heat up a bit more.
But also the stencil's a little bit creased. You can
oh yeah,
you can deal with that with a cool iron as well.
Yeah,
flatten it out. But because they're not rigid, they're actually easier to store than the rigid plastic stencils. You can roll them up, put them in an elastic band, put them in a folder.
There we go. It's going. How cool is that? Magic. It's magic. Da, da, da. Right. Shirts next, Pete. And I really am joking. I did do a few of yours recently. Right, so that's quilt pounce. That's the full line stencils. It's a bit like a screen print where the white is where the stencil chalk will go through. That stencil chalk you either use a microfiber cloth, one of those things that you use on your clothing to get rid of fabric dust and stuff. And you use one of those, and that also gets rid of the pounce, or use an iron if it's appropriate to use an iron on your quilt. So if it's not appropriate, use one of the other methods. Right, so what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk not just about stencils and the new full line stencils, but we've had a few people, and because we've been doing some teaching on our virtual classroom for our new customers who haven't been able to come to the workshops yet, we've given them a whole sort of series of 1 hour Facebook sessions online over the last few months. And one of the sessions we covered was on feet. And we had quite a lot of interest on the square foot. So the square foot is what I'm going to demo today. And the square foot, it comes in a box like this. Square feet. There's 2 of them in the square foot box, and you get 2 of those feet, one at 1/2 inch and one at 1/4 of an inch. So from the center of the hole to the outside edge is either 1/2 inch, or the one I've got on the machine at the moment on the Moxie is a 1/4 inch. So how would you use square feet, and why do you need square feet? So square feet can be used in a number of different ways. One of them we can actually piece on the machine, and I've got something set up here that will show you how that can be done. And the other thing that you can do on it is just do equidistant locks or ruler work using the 1/4 inch foot or the 1/2 inch foot. So instead of an echo, you might do straight lines. It's very good for using with something like the 3x12 inch ruler, because it means that you're not wavering. You're actually putting it up against a flat surface rather than a rounded sure foot. So it's an alternative to using that. For example, modern quilts, you might see modern quilts with a lovely sort of straight line, and you can either use the channel lock or you can use the alignment of the square foot with the channel lock to really get a great result. So that's something that you can do. And the other thing that you can do is actually bind your quilt. Just the top, you'll have to do, I say obviously, until you've actually done it, or maybe sort of thought through the process, it wouldn't be obvious. But you can actually, on a frame quilt, and I haven't tried it on a suite, but I see no reason why you couldn't do the 1/4 inch all the way around your quilt. But on the frame, whilst the quilt is on the frame, and when you get to the bottom of the quilt, you can base the final section in place so that you're only on 2 rails. It's only attached to the take-up rail and to the backing rail. So for example, I've gone back down to just backing rail and wadding here. This quilt top I've just taken off temporarily. Now, the reason that you might want to do that is speed, and certainly if you're offering it as a service, perhaps you're quilting for other people, and this would be a really good thing that you could do, is actually while it's on the frame and it's all nice and square and everything, you can, instead of taking it to your machine and using a walking foot, you can actually do it on here. How cool is that? Now, how do we do all these things? So I've got the Moxie. I've put a ruler base on because it's easier if you've got a little bit of a table to put something on. Any questions, Pete? Shall I just pause for a moment?
Not on this.
No? Okay.
A question about the stencils, whether or not you can use those full-line stencils on a sit-down or whether it rubs away. I see a couple of people have already said it works fine on a sit-down.
Yep.
Clearly there's probably a bit more of a danger that you're going to rub away the
talk. And I did ask Cindy Needham, because she does a lot of stencils, about that, and whether she's tried the full line stencils. And she said that her experience was it sort of came away too quickly, but she's doing it on a sort of little domestic. She doesn't actually have a long arm, I don't believe. Whereas I've used it with the longer arms, the 16 inch and the 18 inch that we've got, and not had a problem. And I think it's because you're not continually repositioning it like you do on a small machine. And it's actually that causes the chalk to come off. Now, someone had put a comment about spraying it with hairspray to keep it in place. I wouldn't do that unless I had totally tried it myself. So I cannot say that will work. But if you want to try that, then you could do that on a test piece perhaps before you do it on your prize-winning quilt. So let's just have a go at some of the things that you can do with square feet. So I've attached it to my Moxie. Now the Moxie, the orientation of the needle, the needle to the foot, that is what I'm talking about. The needle to the foot, we've got the needle in front of the foot on the Moxie, and actually that makes it really pretty good on the square foot. The other way round is for the Amara Avanti Simply and the Forte, is that we would have the foot would be like here and then the needle would be there, which is still fine, but it just makes it quite clean to see actually on the Moxie. Now what we do is this is my sort of Blue Peter. Here's one I did earlier. And if anybody isn't British and don't know what Blue Peter is, sorry about that. Yeah, Google it. I won't apologise. Okay, so what we did, I've got a channel lock on here, as well as using my square foot. I find the combination is a bit of a belt and braces approach. So the channel lock can fit either on the wheels that are on the carriage, or it can fit on the wheels that are at the front here, that run side to side. So either on the X or on the Y. And if we put them on the Y, then that means that we can run right along and we can use the square foot to do the seam. And that seam then, once you've done it, you could just fold it back and either just finger press, because I've got a ruler base on, that's not a problem. Or, I mean, anybody who's done a lot of foundation piecing, you might have one of those seam rollers that we used to sell at Cotton Patch, or you might have like a seam presser. There's like a wooden tool. There's a plastic clover one. There's various seam pressers. Or, I mean, I guess you could use an iron, or a little mini iron or something if you wanted. It's actually fine to be finger pressed, but some people might prefer to iron it, I guess. Now, we're going to do the next one. Now, you could, so that's just a single piece of fabric, obviously, just strip. But you could have done pieced strips and then just laid them on. And I've actually got, there's a quilt that I made as a playmat, which I did like that in flannel. So lay it on there with your right sides together. Bring your square foot to the edge of where you're going to start. And I would always make this slightly bigger than I want the finished size so that I can trim the edges once I've put my square foot binding in place. That's always a good idea. So now I can put on my channel lock, so that just goes over the wheel. Shall I just do that? Don't want to get in your way, Pete.
All right.
There we go. I've got it set to precision and 11 stitches per inch. You might want to do cruise, but I prefer precision. Just hold the quilt backing and away you go. And at the other end, we're just going to do needle up, pull a bit of excess off your cone, come back, needle down, needle up, and then trim off your threads with your scissors that you've put down somewhere.
Okay, so Marianne's recommended a product for a roller, and Helen has said
Yeah.
a teaspoon works just as well.
Ah, yeah, okay.
And a question from Evie, who's in the Netherlands.
Oh, right. Hi, Evie.
Am I understanding correctly, Liz, that you can iron your seam on the ruler base?
Well, I've never tried it, so I probably wouldn't do that.
But you did mention ironing.
Yeah, but I've got the ruler base in place. So yeah, if I hadn't got the ruler base in place, maybe I would just use an iron, and then it wouldn't affect anything. You could just put an iron on there. But if you've got the ruler base in place, I don't think you need an iron. I think you can just finger press.
I imagine it would work fine, Liz, as long as your iron's not too hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't want anybody to have a melted ruler base. I haven't tried it, so I don't know. Right, there we go. Ready for the next one. So then we just lay the next one on, right sides together, and then we'll move the channel lock down.
I think this is a really quick and effective way of doing a strip.
It is.
Like this.
And you can quilt it afterwards, like free motion. Obviously, effectively, it's quilted in lines as you go. And if you don't want just to have lines, oh, by the way, when you're moving it down, you can just hold that clamp in place until you get to the right place. You don't have to take it off completely. It'll just sort of slide.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in fact, one of the people we saw when we were up in Scotland was Jo Avery, who's a Moxie mentor. And Jo's done some lovely blog posts on the Moxie as she's gone through that sort of her long arm journey. And one of the quilts we saw up there, it was lovely to see Jo and, you know, where she is and her lovely sewing space. I've got some a blog post that I'll do about that. But Jo had done this, a really cool, very modern style quilt with all of the sort of horizontal lines. And she literally just put on the channel lock, got your Fitbit on, and you just walk up and back down and walk up and back down, doing all these horizontal lines with the channel lock. So that's really good. So here we go again. We'll just hold that initial section. There we go. Needle up. Pull some from the cone, come back, go away, come back, needle up, find your scissors again. I've put them down somewhere. Trim your ends. So pull up that. Just drifting a bit. Let me just pull that up. Cut my bobbin thread. So that's how we do strip piecing on the long arm with the square foot. So once you've done that, and I do like the roller, I've got one of the rollers because they're lovely. There we go, that's good. That's very cool. So what we would do when we finished, I would measure and square up using some markers, some wash away markers, as to where I want the edge of my top to be. And I would then align. Now, binding, there's some really good videos on YouTube of how to do binding. Leave plenty at the start and at the stop, because you will be able to do a nice finish to your binding if you've got plenty of excess. So the least visible part of your quilt is either the bottom left or the top left of your quilt. When it's hanging on a wall, you tend not to see unless you're a very tall person, you don't tend to see this top section here. And so when other people are looking at it, if it's hanging, the least visible part for a binding to be joined is in this section here. So that's just something I would suggest. Now, if you've got your blue marker, you could mark at intervals or even do a little line, because it's going to be hidden anyway, and just say that it was along that line there. I would now stitch, take off my channel lock, because otherwise it really doesn't work. Take off my channel lock, and I would leave myself plenty of leeway. Pop my needle down, needle up, bring that up. Now you don't have to use a ruler or whatever for this, but it might help you if you did. If you find that's easier, then use a ruler.
Sideless, might be easier.
Yeah. Okay, so I've just secured that. So I'm not going to demo it with the ruler, but you could, like I say, you could use that. And because I'm going to just visually just go up here. And I'm going to stop at the point that I get to here. Just backtrack a few stitches. And then needle up. Now I know some people go, I think they go all the way to the end, but I don't. So if you want to go all the way to the end, try that method, but this is how I do it. And then you're going to take your 45 degree, just like you would if you were doing it on your domestic, and then bring it back over here. Finger press that in place, like so. And now you can align it, quarter inch in, needle down, needle up, bring up your bobbin thread. Make sure that bobbin thread's running nice and easily. Do some securing stitches, and then we're ready to do the next section. keep going. And there is my mitered corner. Beautiful. That's gonna, and then all I've got to do is take that, just press that down, either finger press or iron it down, and then when I take it off the frame, I'll be able to trim that and take that edge, that folded edge, to the back, and just whip stitch it in place. So that's how I can do. Isn't that nice? I rather like that.
So a couple of questions in, Liz, and I see that Linda has finally answered one of them.
Oh, good.
One question was, can you use the square foot without the ruler base? So Linda
Yeah.
Gosselin, who's one of our handy quarter ambassadors, educators, sorry Linda, I can't remember which.
Both ambassador and educator.
Perfect. Has said yes, you can.
Yeah.
And Jenny's asked, can you, if you want to use alternate colours on the strips, can you sew one colour on the quilt, then change the threads and re-sew on the other colour with your changed threads? You can do that, Jenny, but what you would need to do is to float the quilt after your first pass, because you'll have secured the quilt together. So I think Liz, she's looking at the different colours that you have here. So you might want to use one particular coloured thread to do your quilting on this afterwards.
Oh, I see.
And then a second colour, a different colour on the second set of strips.
Right. Well, it's the quilting only shows on the back at this point as a line. So I'm not sure.
But if this is the front of your quilt,
this is the front.
Different colours of thread on the different sections.
Yeah, you just take off and you just, as you say, Pete, you'd float it. So what you would do is have it on this rail and this rail, and it would just, you'd be able to go backwards and forwards as you wish and quilt as desired. So yes, possible. Definitely possible, Jenny.
You need to use your clamps and float the quilt.
Yes. Now, one of our customers hit the problem that I did when I first tried this, and we're going to go to the cutting table just to see this.
And a question from Liz up in Scotland. Would you always stitch in the one direction when attaching your strips? I mean, you could attach your strips vertically, but actually it's much, much easier to do it horizontally, isn't it? Because of the reach.
Well, you'd have to flip in the same direction. Yeah, exactly. You could do it, as you say, in this direction, but yeah, you're limited by the throat space. Whereas that direction, you've got the full width of whatever frame you've got. You could, if you'd got a little foot frame, I guess you could move it and do it in whichever direction you want, really. You could do it diagonally, I guess, if you wanted. That would be quite hard. You wouldn't use the square foot for that. I think someone was asking there, Pete, if you go in that direction and then come down and go back.
You're right. I've misinterpreted, but Liz has just confirmed that's what she meant.
Yeah.
Right to left.
And then,
left to right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd try it. I mean, the thing is, with something like this is really nice fabric with a decent amount. You could put some starch on it to make it even better, so that it doesn't move. And if that's the case, I don't see any issue with that. That you could piece right to right, left to right, and right to left. I don't think that's a problem. Yeah, try it.
And can you do this on the Sweet 16 using rulers? Presumably with.
I think you could. I think I need to check that though, because it is literally something I've never thought to try. So let me just show you one of the things that can happen with this. This was just a real sample piece. I haven't. This isn't a nice sample insofar as it won't go to it being anything. It was just some fabric that I got. Now, what can happen is when you've taken it off, you will want to trim it. And what you do not want to do is trim it in any way where this bit here, I don't know whether you can zoom in on that bit there, but that bit there, that is a critically important bit. Do not trim through that bit. So what you need to do is when you trim this section here and go down here and put your rotary cutting ruler over the top and make sure that you're 1/4 of an inch away from the edge or 3/8 or whatever you've decided. I mean, you'll be 1/4 of an inch if you've used the square foot. You trim that, and then in order to trim this one over here, you must make sure that that edge there is not going to get trimmed off as well, because otherwise you end up with a hole. That's really bad. So you can see that if you've done it properly, this just goes to the back, and that goes to the back, and there is your mitered nicely 45-degree angle. And that's even with that was an unfortunate join of a binding strip. but if we look at this one, that looks better. That's a few loose threads there. And that will go to the back, and that will go to the back, and there is my nicely 45-degree corner. Ta-da! All done on the frame. Fantastic. And what's interesting is, since I think some people have tried this recently and they've gone, it's a game changer. So definitely something that a lot of our customers have been using recently and absolutely loving, but not loving the little hole that they created in the 45-degree.
Yes, so as Lorraine says, yes, been there, done that.
Yes,
Talking
and
about cutting the mitered corner.
Me too, Lorraine. And I did it on, I was making these placemats for my friend Penny, and luckily I'd done extras. And when I made that mistake, I thought, right, not doing that one again. It was pretty clear how not to do it. So, okay, what have you got here? We got my feed, hopefully.
So Carolyn says she's finished binding your samples and posted them yesterday. So
oh, that's exciting.
So we'll look forward to featuring those.
Fantastic.
I'm sure, Carolyn, at a future Saturday morning.
Great. Okay, and Judy says, hi Liz and Pete, sorry I'm late, busy clearing a space for my anticipated sit-down long arm. Fantastic. That's exciting.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, some of the things that we did, I think, for me, Pete, yesterday was there was a fantastic moment yesterday, and I am going to, Karen said it's okay to post it. There was one of our newest customers, our newest customer, who had bought a long arm, an Amara, and she phoned up, it's less than a month ago, isn't it?
Yes.
Less than a month ago, she phoned up, and literally, we hadn't had, to my knowledge, we'd never had a conversation prior to this. And she phoned up on us, I think it was Saturday or Sunday morning, and she said, I'd like to buy an Amara with studio frame. Now, that isn't the normal first line that we get from a customer, but she was so excited, she just needed to get that out. Well, that excitement continued all the way through to us installing. You could tell this person was very, very excited when we arrived yesterday. And we installed the Studio 2 frame with the Amara. And what we do is we normally we show how to do the installation of the fabric, or set up the fabric rather. We put in the reference line, the plumb line, and then we bring up and it's quite a long time before you actually get sewing. So there is that anticipation, and so that happened, and then it was over to Karen. Well, I videoed it, and I thought after 3 minutes, I thought, well, I'm not going to stop videoing just because she's not stopping. So I kept going. And actually, Karen, if you're watching this, congratulations on your new Amara. I hope you love it as much as was clear from the fact that you did over 10 minutes of quilting to nearly cover the entire piece. We've never had that before, but the joy was just palpable. Honestly, Pete and I were just like in the background. She was in her own world, loving her new machine, and that just was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
You'll certainly see that when Liz posts the video and some of the still photos where she's got the biggest beaming smile on
She
her face.
has. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So we're delighted to welcome Karen and obviously Anne, who was here on our Facebook Live last weekend. And Anne sent me a list of all the things that she was planning to do, and I know that she's got a lot of time set aside this weekend. So you might not even be watching me. You might have to do it later, Anne, because you'll just be wanting to use that long arm. So we've got a special price on the square foot, haven't we, Pete? But I don't think we discussed.
10% off?
Yes. So we'll do 10% off on the square foot this week until next Friday. And so if anybody's interested in the square foot, we have got plenty of stock of that. So yeah, just place your orders. It'll go live when we finish this. It's now 11:47, so I should be able to do that fairly quickly. Say by 12:30. You should be able to put that square foot in your shopping basket, should you so wish, with a 10% discount. What's the normal price on it? Can't remember.
Can't remember.
Okay, neither of us can remember. We're
a bit of a hurry this morning.
We were in a bit of a hurry this morning. We got back fairly late last night after doing Karen's installation up near, where were we? Sheffield. We were at Sheffield. It's like, what day is it? Oh, it must be Sheffield. It must be. We've did a lot of traveling, but it's been absolutely brilliant, and we've loved seeing all of our customers, and it's just a fabulous community that we're all part of. And there was a lot of that became clear when we did some of the installations or the servicing, particularly up in Scotland, when you mentioned somebody that, oh yes, I know them, they're in the same quilt group, all of that kind of thing. And it turns out, also talking to Joe Avery as well, there was lots of people that Joe knew that I knew from Houston, and we've just had that kind of week really where those connections, it's like a web really of long arm quilters around the UK, and we're just delighted to be a part of that, and thank you very much.
In fact, we turned up at one customer, didn't we, who knew that we were going to see Joe Avery and handed us a parcel for us to act as posties to take to Joe.
Yes, and that was, sorry Pete, we did. Yeah, we saw the parcel there, and I have to say, it's always absolutely lovely to see Mary. And sadly, we didn't see Archie on this occasion, but Archie hasn't been very well. But Archie is in his early 90s, and Mary is in her late 80s. But Mary is one of the most switched on pro-stitcher people that I know. And Mary and I, while Pete was servicing the machine, Mary and I, you'll see some of the photos, like a beautiful white dahlia that was done on a Brother embroidery machine. Well, we actually, Mary said, could we export that to Art and Stitch? And can I do that on Designer or Art and Stitch? And anyway, we basically put together a little thing on taking that design, importing it into Pro Stitcher Designer, and then we exported it as a handy quilter format file. We put it on a USB stick, we took it over to the Avanti, we loaded it up, and we started to run it we just did air stitching at that point because we hadn't got any sample. But we did that, and there aren't many of our customers that would be kind of thinking of doing those things, but that's the kind of thing that you can do on Pro Stitcher, is take an embroidery design and actually stitch it out at a different scale on your long arm. So for those of you who are interested in that, that's something that I'd really like to pursue. And it's when I meet customers like Mary who are really kind of thinking a little bit more outside the box that you realise what the potential is. And we're just really scratching the surface still.
So Pauline's joined us this morning. So thank you, Pauline, for dealing with our mail order this week.
Oh, yes.
Karen, for whom we did the installation yesterday, was extremely impressed that not only did she know that we'd been away for 10 days, but that the parcel that she'd ordered the previous day had arrived the same morning that we arrived too. So that's thanks to you, Pauline. So
it made us look really efficient. Yeah.
And Gemma's rightly pointed out that the standard price of the square foot is £60. So thank you for that, Gemma.
Okay,
so that'll be 10% off this week. The other thing to mention on deals are the Glide Thread Club packs.
Yeah, as I mentioned, or as we mentioned on a previous Facebook Live, Glide, in combination with a number of other manufacturers, have had to put up their pricing. I mean, it's not only just sort of shipping costs that have gone up, but just generally costs of doing business have gone up. And that's now reflected in the prices that we're buying our Glide Thread at. So we had a phenomenal deal on our Glide Thread Club, and hopefully a lot of you have taken advantage of that since we launched them last year. We did it for Festival, I think we did it. And so we have to put the Glide Thread Club up. But you've got until midnight starts, 1 minute past midnight on the 1st of June, that Glide Thread Club price will go up to £28 something.
£28.80. So it'll still be 20% off the standard price.
Still a good deal.
Currently 25% off the full price of the 9 cones.
Yes, so the Glide Thread Club, it's 9 cones of 1,000 metre glide thread, and we put them together. Pete and I had a lovely time putting together all these different sets, and you don't get any are repeated. So you could literally buy every Thread Club, encourage you to do this, every Thread Club pack and not have 2 of the same shade. And so that's a really nice way to collect the Glide Thread Club. And we have a number of different ones that are, sort of quite esoteric, but actually then there's others that are sort of most popular colours. So that's going up, but the Glide price is staying the same. What else? For the individual cones. And, training, workshops. Our workshops start a week tomorrow with the Foundation Plus for those people who had purchased a long arm prior to probably about March, April time. Most of the customers prior to that had not had the opportunity to come to a foundation workshop, which is, for most people, is included within the purchase of their machine. And even if you've bought a second user machine, but you've gone through us, you would also get a free class. So for those people who did the virtual workshops through Facebook, you'll be on the Foundation Plus if you've done the quiz, and everybody's done very well on the quiz. So that's good. And those people who are coming on Sunday, we look forward to seeing you then. We'll be transforming this, now we're back, into a workshop area. And anybody who hasn't booked on, you've got up until tomorrow to book on next Sundays. But each time we're doing a workshop, the week before we'll be closing off. We have to put in our food orders a week before, and we are committed then to ordering the food. So if for any reason you cannot make it, please do let us know ASAP, because we might be able to get away without having to pay for the food. Otherwise, we pay for it regardless of whether you come or not. And for most people, that workshop is free. So yeah, it would be good. Love. Okay, and Rosemary's put Love My Glide Club collections. Yes, Rosemary's bought quite a few of those. And Annette says, really loved you visiting me. Oh yeah, so with Annette, I did quite a long session because Pete was doing the servicing with Annette on the Pro Stitcher. And that was great. You know, it's amazing how, you know, it's clear that there's always going to be that need for people to kind of have education and training. So look out for the things that we're planning on that in due course. We hope that we can kind of fill in the gaps of your knowledge, whether you'll be a sit-down or a long-arm quilter.
Those
what do you want to say?
New stencils that this was featuring earlier, they're not on the system yet, but nope. They will be
imminently.
In the next hour or so.
Yeah, in the next hour.
Yeah. Just before the session.
Yeah, we literally opened the box because Pauline, Pauline is a local customer, and as Pete was saying, did our mail order while we're away, and we're delighted that she's now working with us. Thank you, Pauline. And an Amara customer. So not only does she know quite a lot about the products, but super nice person, and we're delighted that you're helping us with those areas that we really did need some help, and particularly when we're away. So that'll be great. And it means that we can continue with the mail order for our customers. Very important job. So, and Anne says, absolutely delighted with my machine. My head is buzzing with new ideas. Oh, that's great. And I think that's one of the things, isn't it? We like to spark those ideas. Having a long arm is just the start. And, you know, just take one step at a time, just learn and just enjoy. That's what it's there for. So great. Anything else, Pete Holpin, on what else we need to add this week?
We talked about training. We'll be organising. We're planning to organise the next training sessions for newer customers in September.
We are. Really good point. Thank you, Pete. Now, we haven't announced those dates. I really just, you know, there's lots of things happening with numbers and stuff like that. But really, until we had got this space converted, and I wanted to see what those numbers were like in the next week or two, don't really want to announce classes that we then subsequently have to cancel for any reason, because it's just a pain for everybody. So as soon as we feel confident, it'll be, I was looking at dates, probably the second week in September, definitely for some classes, because I know there's some lovely Irish ladies who are coming over on a ferry, and several of them are coming over, and we want to make sure that they can come to our foundation workshop. So we'll be scheduling something to suit them, and hopefully that will work for anybody else who wants to come to. Great, we are there. Bank holiday weekend. It's a bank holiday weekend here and in the States. I don't know about Australia, but we hope that whatever you're doing over this long weekend, or if you've got a half-term holiday, that you have a lovely time, and perhaps get out in the garden as well as doing a bit of quilting. It's been so rainy. I'm sure some of you will have maybe a bit quilted out. So if you are, enjoy your garden instead, and have a great week. And we'll look forward to seeing you next Saturday. 11 a.m. and we'll be talking about long arm quilting again. So you take care, everybody. Bye-bye.